Agnes Naismith, Catherine Campbell, Margaret Fulton, Margaret Lang, James Lindsay, John Lindsay, and John Lindsay of Barlich. These are the 7 names of the condemned, accused, tried, and executed for witchcraft here in Paisley in 1697. The deaths marked one of the great last witch panics in Europe, and it all began with an 11-year-old girl, a servant's curse, in a town already gripped by fear. Welcome to Paisley. This is a tale of the Paisley Witches. Our story begins with a child and a curse. On the 17th of August 1696, in the time of King William III and Queen Mary II, 11-year-old Christian Shaw, daughter of John Shaw of Bargarin, who was a wealthy landowner in Bargarin, caught her family's servant, Catherine Campbell, stealing a drink of milk. When Christian told her mother, Catherine turned on in a fury. She cursed the girl, wishing that the devil would haul her soul through hell. Only 4 days later, Christian crossed paths with Agnes Naismith, an elderly woman in the parish long reputed to be a witch. The very next day, on the 22nd of August, Christian was struck down. Her body was convulsing, her limbs twisted, her voice cried out in strange tones. Soon she began vomiting extraordinary objects. There was pins, straw, coal, hair, small stones, even chicken fells at one point. Witnesses described her symptoms as terrifyingly similar to those in the Salem Witch Trials in America just 3 years before. The Shaw family called for ministers. Here, in the abbey behind me, prayers were said, fasts were held, yet Christian's torment only grew worse. And then she began to name the names. Catherine Campbell, Agnes Naismith, and others soon followed. Neighbours, tenants, poor widows. By winter's end, around 35 people across Renfrewshire stood accused of witchcraft. So, as the bells ring here at Paisley Abbey, let's dive a little deeper into this incredible tale. Behind me here sits Paisley Sheriff Court. It wasn't where the trials took place, but it gives you an idea of the sort of point we're at. In early 1697, the Privy Council in Edinburgh ordered a commission to investigate. They met her in Paisley with Lord Blantyre presiding. The evidence would not convict us today, but to 17th century minds it was overwhelming. Christian Shaw was paraded before the commission. Her fits and convulsions seen as proof of the devil's touch. She claimed the accused appeared to her in visions, tormenting her and trying to choke her. Doctors, including Matthew Brisbane, testified that no natural illness could explain her symptoms. Neighbours spoke of quarrels and curses, cows that stopped giving milk, children that sickened, tempers that flared. Ministers thundered sermons that Satan himself was loose in Paisley. The accused were searched for devil's marks and sensitive patches on skin pricked with long pins. Some confessed under the crushing weight of fear and expectation. Others refused to bend, but it made little difference. In 1697, the 7 accused were eventually sentenced to death. This is Moss Street. Once stood a toll booth, said to have held the 7 accused. So let's take a walk up Moss Street and imagine what it had been like for them. The 7 accused would have been taken out of the toll booth and paraded down to the final part. They would have walked these streets, possibly with things being pelted at them, possibly in the back of a cart drawn by a horse, as it clip-clopped down the street. Crowds would have gathered either side, their heads would have been down, and possibly thinking their last thoughts as to what was going to happen next to them. High Street is possibly the route that they took, which I'm on just now. The cobble streets just give you a general idea of the feel before heading to Gallow Green. Welcome to Gallow Green, where the executions happened. On the 10th of June 1697, the condemned were taken from Paisley toll booth to the edge of town here at Gallow Green. The streets were filled with people. Soldiers cleared the way. Children clutched their mothers' hands, that's that little bit tighter, as the queues passed by. The Lindsay brothers, John and James, are said to have clutched one another's hands as they mounted the scaffold. Margaret Fulton and Margaret Lang walked beside them. Catherine Campbell, once just a servant girl, stood pale but silent. And Agnes Naismith, remembered as fierce to the end, spat curses at the crowd. One by one, they were strangled at the gallows until lifeless. But death was not the end for them, no. Their bodies were cut down, thrown into a great pile of tar and timber, and set alight. Eyewitnesses swore the corpses seemed to writhe in the flames, and the air filled with the stench of burning flesh. And over it all rang Agnes Naismith's final words: a curse upon Paisley, its magistrates, and its people. A curse that many believe still lingers today. Behind me is Maxwellton Road. To guard against the curse, the townsfolk turned to superstition. At the very spot behind me, the ashes of the witches were buried, a horseshoe was hammered into the cobblestones. Iron, they believed, would bind the devil's power. For centuries, no local dared tread upon it. To step in the horseshoe was to invite misfortune. And then, in the 1970s, it vanished. Some say it was stolen as a prank. Others, it was removed by accident. But what followed gave the town chills. Accidents, fires, and tragedies seemed to stalk Paisley once again. Only when the horseshoe was replaced did peace return. Even today, many people step carefully around it. Iron still lies here, silent and unremarkable to outsiders, but to Paisley folk, it is a reminder of the curse of 1697. I'm standing here in front of Paisley's Thread Mills, or what used to be Paisley's Thread Mills. Now it stands with businesses and offices inside it. But this brings me to the end of Christian Shaw. What happened to Christian Shaw, the girl whose accusations had set this all in motion? Unlike the seven she named, she lived and she prospered. As a young woman, she travelled to Holland, where she studied the fine spinning techniques used in the linen industry. Returning home, she applied this knowledge to Renfrewshire, setting up her own business and creating jobs. The Bulgarian thread she produced, they here became famous across Europe for its strength and its delicacy. It marked the birth of Paisley's textile industry, which would one day make this town a world capital of weaving. Christian Shaw died in 1737, but then she was remembered not as a victim or an accuser, but as a pioneering businesswoman. Yet her legacy is complex. Prosperity for Paisley brought at the cost of 7 lives. So, we return back to the centre of Paisley at the Abbey. It was here, around these streets, that people prayed for a child convulsing and having fits. It was here fear turned to frenzy, from Abbey to court, from Green to the horseshoe to the mills. The story winds through Paisley's very stones. 7 people died, 1 life flourished, and a curse was bound into a very fabric of this town. This was the tale of the Paisley Witches, a story of faith, fear, fire, and a whispering curse that Paisley has never fully escaped. Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you enjoyed this tour, if you enjoyed this story, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Until next time, guys, here's the next adventure. Cheerio!